Part 9 of Paranormal Parasites by Nick Redfern. We're reading chapter 12. I could not sleep, so we're going to get into it. So, chapter 12, Bedroom Invaders. Almost certainly connected to the issue of orgone and sexual energy is the issue of supernatural entities that invade bedrooms and engage in what are almost always traumatic experiences of the sexual kind. Uh, if you guys go and look, I've talked about this. I won't interrupt anymore, but I have literally talked about this. So I'm grateful that I'm reading this book. If you guys don't enjoy it, I'm enjoying it. But if you do, put a purple heart in the comments. We've seen how paranormal creatures are attracted to so-called lovers' lane locations. There is very little doubt, though, the most terrifying beings that fall into this bedroom invader category are the succubus and the incubus. In his 2011 book, Strange Intruders, David Weatherly says that these creatures live in a spirit world and crave the energy and life essence of the living. They are dangerous, violent, and manipulative things that often present themselves in the form of a person's definitive fantasy. There is, however, nothing appealing about these monsters of the night. In fact, they should be avoided at all costs. It's either that or ultimately pay a terrible price. The problem is that it's very difficult to escape their clutches when you are in bed, completely paralyzed and held down by a malevolent thing from another plane of existence. The term incubus is a most appropriate one as it is derived from the ancient Latin term incubare, which means to lie upon. In essence, the term is a most apt one, as the incubus or succubus does exactly that. It lies upon its victim and sexually assaults them. The incubus is the male version of, of this menacing beast, while the succubus is the female. It's a phenomenon that has been with us just about as long as civilization has existed. As evidence of this, we'll now take a trip back to the world and the people of Mesopotamia, which thousands of years ago was situated in the eastern part of the Mediterranean, covering Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. Beware of the night hag. Mesopotamia has a long and rich history attached to it. It was where around 12,000 years ago the Neolithic revolution began. It was the time period in which we as a species went from being wandering hunter-gatherers to people who put down firm roots and began to grow our own food rather than scavenge to survive. In that sense, Mesopotamia can be seen as a definitive cradle of civilization. And it was in the heat of Mesopotamia that the most dangerous of all the many and varied succubi in history chose to hunt. Her name was Lilith, and hunt is a most appropriate term to use, since Lilith would mercilessly pursue and plague her victims until she got what she wanted, sex or sexual energy. It should be noted, though, that some religions, such as the Jewish and pagan faiths, revere Lilith. In that sense, an argument can be made that Lilith has had a bad rap in the eyes of some at least. The name itself, Lilith, is very important. Like the word incubus, it has a deep ancient meaning. It means night hag, a most appropriate term to be sure. For the people of Mesopotamia, Lilith was to be avoided at all costs, if possible, of course. Her seductive and manipulative ways, though, ensured that most men were unable to resist her hypnotic charms, which seemed inviting but in reality were nothing of the sort. Not even Adam himself, yes, that Adam, from the Old Testament, was able to keep away from her, as will soon become apparent. As for her modus operandi, Lilith was said to stealthily access bedrooms in the dead of night, usually between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Okay, so that's why some of us wake up, like me, I'm still up. And I went to sleep and I got up, and I've been doing that for a while, and I am fighting off a succubus. Um, so that's interesting. Okay. As for her modus operandi, Lilith was said to stealthily access bedrooms in the dead of night, usually between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., which is when most supernatural activity still occurs today, never mind millennia ago. She would carefully pull back the sheets of her victim's bed, ensure that the man was on his back, and then sexually assault him, usually while he slept. On occasion, though, a man would wake up in that previously mentioned state of paralysis. Lilith ensured that the man would ejaculate quickly. There was nothing of a loving or sensual nature to all of this. Lilith needed sperm, which she would then use to create her very own children. They were hideous, half human, half demonic monsters that some researchers believe are still with us today in the form of the menacing black-eyed children, which is an admittedly intriguing theory. As for the victims, they would feel weak and tired, which only got worse when Lilith made repeat calls in the early hours and yet again drained them of their organ. Spirits and devils. It's hardly surprising that Lilith had such inextricable ties to Mesopotamia, and specifically to the Babylonians and the Sumerians. Within both cultures, there was a strong belief that demons are quite literally everywhere, manipulating and machinating as they ruthlessly saw fit, in ways that made it clear that the people of the particular era were merely the playthings of the demons who were using, abusing, and terrifying them, particularly feared by the people where were female demons who were seen as the ones more than any other to be avoided at all costs, if one could avoid them, of course. Lilith was definitely the chief when it came to she-devils. Much of the information and lore we have on Lilith and Mesopotamian succubi comes from a groundbreaking book that was published back in 1903. Its title was Devils and Evil Spirits of Babylonia. The author was Reginald C. Thompson. He was an English archaeologist who excavated excessively at numerous ancient sites in the Middle East. It was during the course of his digs that Thompson became friendly with many of the locals, something that ensured that he soon learned of the old legends of the incubus and the succubus, which he also learned were still believed in and accepted into the 19th and 20th centuries. Thompson was fascinated with, but also somewhat disturbed by, the tales of Lilith and her motley band of night monsters. The result? He chose to chronicle the history of the demons of this area in his aforementioned, now acclaimed book. For many, the book was a wake-up call. The legends of old were more than legends, and the creatures of old were still very much among us. But what of the connection of Adam? What does the story tell us about Lilith? Let's see. I was created only to cause sickness. To understand how and understand what particular circumstances Adam and Lilith came to be husband and wife, we have to first look at the pages of the Old Testament and the creation of Adam and Eve. It's a little known fact. The Bible is in fact that the Bible is in deep conflict when it comes to precisely how the human race came into existence. Certainly, the Holy Bible provides us with the following explanation. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 26-27, we are told, Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. The above quote is taken from Genesis chapter 1. If, however, we compare that with the words of Genesis chapter 2, we see something intriguing, nothing less than a glaring discrepancy. Chapter 1 makes it clear that in terms of God's work, he created both male and female. But that's not what chapter 2 tells us. It explicitly states that Eve was born out of one of Adam's ribs. That there is, without a doubt, a conflict here. It can't be both. The conflict was not ignored, however, even though it is seldom touched on in today's Christian teachings. Jewish lore, specifically, that that which was developed in the medieval period, allows for both scenarios to have validity. The Jewish religion offers the theory that yes, God created a human race, men and women together, but that God is, in a unique act, formed Eve in a very different way out of that aforementioned rib. But how can that be? It has to be one or the other, right? Maybe not. The story goes that although Eve was, in essence, created out of Adam, before she was on the scene, Adam had an earlier wife who was created by God. That earlier wife came into being the same way as Adam and everyone else. She was created in God's image. And who was that first wife? Lilith. That's who. Of course, even among biblical scholars, there is a great deal of debate in relation to the angle of Adam having had two wives. Lore suggests that the union between Adam and Lilith was a highly fraught one. Adam was of the belief, now considered ridiculous, outdated, and outmoded, that the female had to be subservient to the male. Lilith, quite rightly, rebelled against such draconian ideas. There was something else she rebelled against, as we'll see now. The alphabet of Ben Sirash, also referred to as Ben Sira, is a book that was published centuries ago. The precise date is lost to the fog of time, although most scholars agree that it was penned sometime between 700 and 1000 CE. In part, it states, while God created Adam who was alone, he said, "It is not good for man to be alone." He also created a woman from the earth, as he had created Adam himself, and all and called her Lilith. Adam and Lilith immediately began to fight. And why did the pair fight? Simple. Lilith objected to always having to have sex in, to use an old and quaint term, the missionary position. The alphabet of Ben Sirash continues. She said, "I will now not lie below," and he said, "I will not lie beneath you, but only on top. For you are fit only to be in the bottom position, where I am to be the superior one." Lilith responded, "We are equal to each other in as much as we are both created from the earth." But they would not listen to one another. When Lilith saw this, she pronounced the ineffable name and flew away into the air. Adam stood in prayer before his Creator. "Sovereign of the universe," he said, "the woman you gave me has run away." At once the Holy One, blessed be He, sent these three angels to bring her back. The alphabet of Ben Sirash expands further and states that God thundered that if Lilith came back of her own personal volition, all would be well again, and her actions would be forgotten. If, however, Lilith chose to leave Adam for good, which she did, then she would be cursed to lose 100 of her children every single day, forever. When the angels caught up with Lilith, she screamed at them, "I was created only to cause sickness to infants. If the infant is male, I have dominion over him for 8 days after his birth, and if female, for 20 days." The alphabet of Ben Sirach explains further, when the angels heard Lilith's words, they insisted she go back. But she swore to them by the name of the living and eternal God, whoever, whenever I see you or your names or your forms in an amulet, I will have no power over that infant. As she also agreed to have 100 of her children die every day. Accordingly, every day 100 demons perish, and for the same reason we write the angels' names on the amulets of young children. When Lilith sees their names, she remembers her oath, and the child recovers. Huh. She will become a haunt for jackals. That the ancient she demons of Mesopotamia would excessively straddle their male victims suggests that this imagery was passed down through generations and originated with the story of Lilith. She was herself seen in Mesopotamian lore as something demonic to be avoided at all costs, someone who during sex preferred to be on top. Certainly, there are many ancient references to Lilith. Isaiah 34:12 through 7 in the Bible says this of Lilith: her nobles will have nothing there to be called a kingdom. All her princes will vanish away. Thorns will overrun her citadels, nettles and brambles her strongholds. She will become a haunt for jackals, a home for owls. Desert creatures will meet with hyenas, and wild goats will bleat to each other. There the night creatures will also lie down to find for themselves places of rest. The owl will nest there and lay eggs. She will hatch them and care for her young under the shadow of her wings. There also the falcons will gather, each with its mate. Look in the scroll of the Lord and read. None of these will be missing. Not one will lack her mate. For it is his mouth that has given the order, and his spirit will gather them together. Her, he allots their portions, his hand distributes them by measure. They will possess it forever and dwell there for generation to generation. Clearly, Lilith has no normal human was no normal human woman. She had demonic powers and she held dominion over newborn babies. Because Lilith as a result of the word of God, was forced to keep on creating new babies for herself due to the fact that 100 were destined to die every single day. She had to find a proactive way to ensure her beloved demonic babies would survive. This brings us to the legend and actions of the succubus. The only option available to Lilith was for her to supernaturally endlessly manifest in the bedroom of sleeping men and assault them, sperm being the vital desire in some versions of the story. Lilith would get pregnant in the conventional, tried and tested way that women have always gotten pregnant. On other occasions, however, she would masturbate men and collect their sperm. Or, if a man had been masturbating in bed, she would collect that too. She would also drain them of sexual energy, almost certainly Wilhelm Reich's organ. Whatever the truth of the matter, the legend of the succubus was born, largely out of the story of Lilith, which dates back to the creation of human life on the planet, on the earth. Now we'll see how exactly all of this led to the coming of both the succubi and succubus, which are still among us today, a true statement to their staying power. The development of the incubus and the succubus. St. Augustine, a noted philosopher and Christian theologian, who was born in 354 and died in 430, commented on this issue in a post called Whether the Angels Have Bodies Naturally United to Them. The words of St. Augustine were quoted. Many persons affirm that they have had the experience or have heard from such as have experienced that the satyrs and fauns whom the common folk call incubi, have often presented themselves before women and have sought and procured intercourse with them. Hence, it is folly to deny it. As this particular extract demonstrates, the term incubi was around millennia ago, as with the connection between the incubi and sex. Such things were also being talked about more than 1,000 years ago. Melis Maleficarum is a book that was written in the latter part of the 15th century by Henrik Kramer. Kramer, a priest, said, "At first, it may truly seem that it is not in accordance with the Catholic faith to maintain that children can be begotten by devils, that is to say, by incubi or succubi. For God himself, before sin came into the world, instituted human procreation, since he created woman from the rib of man to be a helpmeet upon man. But it may be argued that devils take their part in this generation, not as the essential cause, but as a secondary and artificial cause, since they busy themselves by interfering with the process of normal copulation and conception by obtaining human semen and themselves transferring it." Kramer added, "Moreover, to beget a child is the act of living body, but devils cannot bestow life upon the bodies which they assume, because life formally only proceeds from the soul, and the act of generation is the act of the physical organs which have bodily life. Therefore, bodies which are assumed in this way cannot either beget or bear. Yet it may be said that these devils assume a body not in order that they may bestow life upon it, but that they may, by the means of this body, preserve human semen and pass the semen on to another body." Ha! That's very interesting to me. Moving on, and I'll share it later. Moving on to more modern times, Paul Karras penned The History of the Devil and the Idea of Devil in 1900. He offered his readers the following words: "Satan is supposed to serve first as a succubus, or female devil, to men, and then as an incubus, male devil, to women. And St. Thomas declares that children begotten in this way ought to be regarded as the children of men whom Satan served as succubus. They would, however, be more cunning than normal children on account of the demoniacal, influence to which they were exposed in their prenatal condition." Matthias Paris mentions that within 6 months, one such incubus baby developed all its teeth and attained the size of a boy in 7 years, while his mother became consumptive and died. Pardon me. Bedroom invaders in today's world. It's important to note that such creatures are not limited to just one or two parts of the planet, or even to specific time frames. Incubi and succubi are everywhere, exactly as they were in the distant past. In Newfoundland, there is the old hag, a female monster that, just like Lilith, straddles the unwary in the dead of night and steals semen from terrified men. South Africa has the monstrous Tokoloshe. Scandinavia is home to the mare, which rather notably is where the word nightmare comes from. Papa Bawa creates fear and dread for the people of Zanzibar. The Karashbazan in Turkish version is a Turkish version, and the Leduric plagues the people of Hungary. While the names are many and varied, the list above is just the beginning. The key component of a sexual encounter in the dead of night, in which the victim is unable to stop the experience is worldwide. It is possible that all of this from the earliest years of civilization around 12,000 years ago to the present day is due to nothing stranger than complexities of the human mind. After all, 12,000 years may be a long time, but we really haven't changed that much. Admittedly, yes, technologically speaking, we are very different from the people of yesteryear. On the other hand, though, just like today, the people back then had families and friends. They laughed and they cried. In that sense, our minds are not so different. Those who are skeptical of the idea that bedroom invaders of a supernatural nature really exist suggest that all of the above, from the distant past to the present day, can be explained away by what is known popularly as sleep paralysis. Its medical term is hypnagogia. Hypnagogia. It's a period during the sleep state when a person semi awakens. And in that half wake, half sleep state, the brain can do some very strange things, including creating a sense of something threatening in the bedroom. It's a condition which is was discovered back in the 1800s by Louis Ferdinand Alfred Maury, who was a French doctor. Sleep paralysis does not and cannot explain away everything, though. There are, for example, cases in which the encounter leaves behind residual odor, such as a brimstone and sulfur, yes, which are reported in numerous paranormal encounters. Yep, that's a demonic stench. This includes the early 1950s era experiences of Albert Bender, who quickly found himself on the wrong side of the men in black when he started to dig into the UFO mystery. On occasion, a wife has seen her husband straddled by one of these crazed things, and vice versa. As this shows, these encounters are most assuredly not totally internal to the victims. There is an undeniable external aspect too. So this brings us to the most important question of all. What is it that has tormented and tortured so many for centuries, and why? Back to the world of Oregon. Okay. Back to the world of Oregon. The incubus can take on numerous forms, including those of a handsome man, a reptilian type creature, and a beast resembling a werewolf. Among many others, the succubus typically appears as a beautiful girl or as a wizened old crone. But there are important factors that must not go amiss. Yes, these things can alter their forms, but they are also able to materialize, dematerialize, and according to some witnesses, walk through walls and doors. In some cases, they vanish in a flash of light. This strongly suggests they are not flesh and blood entities at all, but energy based beings, just like the jinn of the Middle Eastern history. And in the same way, the jinn can feed on human life force. So the incubus and the succubus also certainly do too. In the old legends, these malevolent things would have sex with their victims with the specific intent of creating offspring, particularly the Lilith type creatures. Yet, an energy based life form is certainly not going to procreate and give birth as we do. Semen would be useless to them. In light of this, the most likely scenario is the old legends were distortions of something else, perhaps even distortions brought about by the monsters themselves as a means to mask their true agenda. So what is the answer? These creatures of the night deliberately place us into extreme states of sexual emotion, which results in an increase of our sexual energies and our libidos. Then, when we are highly sexed, they quickly feed on that mysterious sexual energy that Wilhelm Reich spent so much time investigating in the 1950s. Oregon. And when they are finally done with us, they vanish into the night, leaving behind them an endless number of people whose only memories are of a sexual supernatural assault. Yet again, we find in our very midst monsters for whom we are fuel. All right, so chapter 13, we'll start with Monsters of a Mysterious Island. So, my gosh, I don't agree with it just being, well, like he said, I think that back in those ancient times they didn't have, the words. They spoke, they had the words, but just not our words to describe it. Because as I've experienced it, and I shared this on my TikTok, and I have a lot of people who are engaged in a lot of witchcraft and doing witchcraft, and they are obsessed because they don't have energetic access to me like they used to. Because I've changed environments. Sometimes, so when God tells you to move, move. Because even though it seems like it may be a worse thing, what He's trying to cut down is the assaults and the attacks. And what I was into going through was a barrage. Like I was being barraged daily towards the end. Like there was a year where it was just like, oh my God, like it would be physical attacks and spiritual attacks, and I could, I was fasting, I was praying, I was doing all this stuff, and it was helping to thwart those assaults. So woe unto you who were participating and who come on to my channel to try and see whatever it is that you need to see, because it has been returned back to thee, and it's not going anywhere else. So whether it doesn't matter what you do, it's attached to your bloodline. But I had several people attaching to me, and these were people who were alive. These were people who made pacts with demonic entities, and Asmodeus is a incubus succubus. I still have to do reading on him, to research on him. But it was brought to my attention spiritually. It's like, okay, who is attacking me and what is this thing? Because Asmodeus, if you start having pains in your legs, and there is a mantra for this, and it's a Hanuman mantra, and it's Om Hung Hanumate Rudrakmakai Hum Khat. Okay, so I started chanting this the other day because Asmodeus is a demon of lust and fame and a fortune and all that. So that's why these guys are making pacts with this particular demon. There's also Azazel. Azazel gives you the ability, or Azazel has the ability, to transfer, like Fallen with Denzel Washington and John Goodman. I've said this before, to go from body to body, right? But and I've noticed that they especially go to homeless people who are out of their minds, right? People who are in a low state because of their environment, and that was hard when I was homeless. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to get me to feel ashamed, to feel guilty for sticking up for myself, and this is your punishment. It was a shaming ritual that backfired on them because I wasn't what they thought that I was going to be. And so I had a lot of people who I had to fight off, right? So to me, they would make pacts with these demonic entities that were lustful entities, or had that succubi incubus spirit. That was part of the demon. That was part of their characteristics. But the humans, who wanted to feed, right? They wanted to feed off of me. I had people attaching themselves to my heart because they felt, oh, well, if I can't attach, and I mean, I would see it. I would see it in the spiritual realm. So when I'm doing my meditation and I'm chanting my mantra, right? I'm singing my mantra, and this is why you clear your chakras. And people are telling people not to clear their chakras. And this is because, oh, you just got to raise your vibration. Well, when you have a small city attacking you because that's what the city was literally built on witchcraft. Okay, I'm in California. Do the math. Do the math. Um, and so when you are constantly being bombarded with negativity, I had people in the spiritual realm that I saw trying to lynch me. This was Hispanic cult members. I mean, it was very diverse though. But they were trying to lynch me. They were trying to sexually assault me. They were trying to give me diseases. They were trying to make me drugged up. Okay, because this was a part of spiritual warfare that I had never experienced before, and it took me to. I had to fast in order to survive. I had to fast in order to get that divine wisdom. I had to break myself down again and again and again in order to be transformed and to level up. Okay, and so the last and everything always with witchcraft it always has to do with sex. I want to harness that energy. I had people sending me lust. So I was at a job site, and this was recently. This was last month, actually. This was my birthday month. And this person, I didn't recognize this person until later. This was somebody I've talked about already on my podcast who is a sex offender, and she is an abuser. This is a female sex offender. This is a female sexual predator. Okay? There's two that I've had to deal with, and they are voracious. And they have that succubus that's, well, it's not incubus, but that succubus energy. I don't care what your pronouns are, and it's just if you are taking on a demonic entity into yourself, you know and so they came for a concert. There was a concert that night. I had nothing to do with the concert. And I've told you guys about me being gang stalked for the longest time. Of having my channels shadow banned because they don't want the truth coming out, because I've hit the nail on the head. So they didn't realize who they were messing with, right? And I give all glory to the Most High God and my ancestors, because they protected me, and they were the ones that were like, okay, let's giving me wisdom and discernment. And it got to so bad for them to the point where they were like, okay, we got to block off her crown. And so, we got to distract her. And they were literally like siphoning. Every time I would regenerate, they would siphon my energy. I saw it. So anyway, she comes to this concert. Mind you, I don't know who, wasn't aware. Again, God protecting both of us. Because of this, she's, it got so bad to where, these guys want to murder you. They want to unalive you because they want to get what they want to get done. And I've had people pass away. I've had people that they've killed. And I was told that, by this point, it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. Okay, so these guys they end up giving themselves away. We're seeing right now with the Palestinian genocide, them giving themselves away. Everything that they told us was wrong, because all cluster B personalities can do is lie. They don't know how to tell the truth. Of course not. Because their goal is to be seen a certain way and to reap the benefits without having to work too hard. And if that means siphoning your energy, doing witchcraft spells against you and all this other kind of shit, they're going to do it. So anyway, I'm in my buggy and I'm on my phone because I've already done my patrol. And so, and I feel, and I'm backed up, I think. I think I'm either backed up or I'm on the side. I'm parked on the side and there's a fence. Because it's over an overpass. I'm under an overpass. And there's a fence because they're doing construction on the side that I'm on. And I feel this lust. I mean, like creepy lust, right? Not like your partner desiring you. You know, that's like, gosh, you look good. You know what I mean? That's a different kind. This was pure lust, and it freaked me out. And I remember saying, because it was a conscious thought that somebody was projecting towards me, right? So I didn't see the face of the person. I just saw I saw their body, I saw what they were wearing, and I started up my buggy, and because somebody was like, I don't want to deal with this, because it took a while, because I was trying to process, like, what was that, what the hell did I just what where did this lust come from suddenly, right? Like, it was literally like, oh yeah. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Okay, so I start the buggy. I'm boom, right? I look back and I see somebody approaching me, and I'm like, nope, I'm not dealing with it, because there was another security company that was supposed to be handling it. Okay, but this seemed very directed. Like, when I got that psychic, that telepathic communication, basically, right? I picked it up because it was very dark, it was very sinister, and it was, in the wrapped around that lust energy. And I was like, no. I was like, okay. And I recognized it from somebody, again, that I'd already dealt with. And I'm thinking, but I wasn't thinking that she would travel all the way down, to come to a concert. So I didn't know this until later. So I drove away. I waited a few minutes. I, kind of did some rounds, and came back. Do you know that person was still there? At this time, I didn't know who it was. It was still there. And they started walking away very slowly, like they had some problems with their legs. Okay. And they were walking away very slowly, and they turn around and like, oh, hi. No. And I don't know what was getting into me, because I was like, no, fuck, I don't want to deal with this. But in my mind was blind, if that makes sense. Like, I knew I didn't want to deal with it. Now I'm thinking, I don't want to deal with people, because when I got off the trolley, it was like, oh my God, I don't like being around people. I don't like being around that, just a whole bunch of people where you can't get away. Right. So I was like, whew, I escaped. And so I rode off again. And this time I watched something, because I had looked down, and then something told me look back up. And they focused my eyes on this person's legs. And then I realized who it was. Who it was. And because this person had knee surgery, and this person was literally trying to, had been projecting herself into me, to try and live through me, because she didn't like her life, right? She saw something that I was blessed and favored or whatever, and she's decided, I'm going to basically just take over. What you spend is what I'm going to spend. I'm going to try and basically dog walk you with your own body, right? And so anyway, I would feel her. Sometimes I'd the thoughts. If you guys are following me, you understand what I'm saying. Where I would hear her thoughts, right? But I would also feel whatever, if she was taking coke, like my nose doesn't go off like it's been going off, right? So taking coke. Then there was one time where I was walking, all of a sudden my knees gave out, and I was like, what the fuck is going, you know what I mean? I'm doing 200 squats, right? Whether I'm just doing it on my own weight, using my own body weight, or whether I've been at the gym, my knees are going to give out like that. You know what I mean? Because I've worked them. Right? I was in college when the lady said, hey, it's better to work them. If you keep working them, you're going to build up strength. That's what you do the leg presses for. So, and I know myself, right? And this was not too long ago. This was only a year, right? Because when I stopped the fasting and I started to eat regularly, my digestive system was like, ah, and so I gained weight. Rapid did not take long. But I felt, so when she had knee, and God said she had knee surgery, right? So I mean, there was a time where I had peace. So anyway, when I was looking at her legs, I said, because this she would walk slow anyway. Like, this is a woman who, she would claim to be, and she always lied about her age. And she looked like Ursula, but just the retarded version of Ursula with that triple overbite and stuff. And she couldn't go up a flight of stairs. She couldn't go. She walked up one. I remember. I wasn't. This is not exaggerating. She went up one step and had to stop because she was sweating profusely. It was not hot. And you know what I mean? And we went out to go walk the dogs one time, and she was forcing me to stay behind. Okay, so that's when you dealing with people like this. They want to hop on to your energy because they don't have any, right? So this person showed up with this lust, right, thinking that it's going to, after everything that she's put me through. Like, this woman tried to murder me. On one hand, she wanted to be me. On another hand, she wanted to have, of course, because that's part of the demonic possession. That's part of the conditioning. I use you up in every way, shape, or form, and then I throw you away. That's what malignant narcissists do, right? But I was always that one that got away. And if you're that one that got away, they're still trying to telepathically or energetically do to you what they would have done if you would have been there with them in the flesh, in person. Okay, that's why I keep telling people, you think that you've left, they have not left you, because they are naturally obsessed. They are natural stalkers, and most of them, because they don't want to keep getting caught. Because, if the police don't do anything, they know that you can handle it yourself. Right? So they're becoming spiritual stalkers. Right? So they can energetically stalk you. Right? So, because a lot of people, just like there's things that I would never have gotten into learning and studying about what this demon does, or black goo spells, until they attacked me, and it ended up killing one of my grand fur babies. Right, that black goo spell. That's a Mexican, thing, I guess. And I mean, I'm sure anybody can do it. I saw a TikTok video, and the lady, Mexican girl, was doing it. I've seen all these spells and these love domination spells. There was another succubus. So, even if it is an entity that has attached itself like a parasite, and ingrained ingrained itself into a human host, to be able to get sperm, to be able to get that, Oregon energy or whatever. Because, I mean, but the ones that dealt with will try and get, because they're grooming you, but they're already they're already essaying you. I told you guys the story, well, at least on my TikTok. I don't know if I put it up here. I may have republished it up here. But, talking about the manager, and he wasn't too happy about that. But he gave, as I said, these guys will give themselves away. So I don't know this guy. There's been many people that I don't know, and they know about me, though. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm in a new area, I don't know anybody, and I really keep to myself. So it's more crisp when people give themselves away, because I had my suspicions, about it being a network, and it's proven true. I had somebody make a comment that I don't know. I was just in walking, but he was irritating me because he was literally like riding my ass. And when people get rejected nowadays, they're always trying to get revenge on others for setting a boundary. You ever notice that it's not okay to set a boundary with people? And so he said something, and I said, "Oh, okay, right." I have the I had a security guard who was in it. She's not that she's still not trying to do the same that stuff, but anyway, there are a lot of I believe that when people do not heal, those demons have better access, because you're not healing and you're ruminating in whatever happened, right? You're doing drugs, you're doing alcohol, you're not in your right mind, right? Because you're not healing it. You're trying to you're self medicating, whatever. And so some of these, I know because I am a survivor, of sexual assault and domestic violence. So it's just it's you got to heal. If you don't heal, you are going to repeat. You are going to repeat, and that's what the Most High has been revealing to me, is and confirming other things that I've already said, on my podcast, is that when you don't heal, you keep basically with these cluster B personalities, and the demons that they are housing, but they're trying to, because they didn't heal, they keep recreating, and I forget what that's called. They keep recreating the same scene over and over again, not necessarily to try and get the upper hand, but it's because there's like, oh, okay, I got to get used to it, I guess, because I didn't get justice. I didn't, nobody told me, gave me love or healed me. And so the jealousy, the pathological jealousy comes with, okay, you went through the same thing, how did you get blessed, and why do I feel like I was being punished, right? And that's not the case at all. That's not the case. But we don't have all the information that we need, and that's why we have to clear away the baggage that is inside of us, because we do live between worlds. There are parasites. There are residue of people who lived in an apartment that you're now in with domestic violence. Somebody who was, I remember I put a hat on from somebody who his brain, when I put the hat on, it was like static. Because his brain was always percolating. He was always going, and he was a veteran, so I'm assuming that there was something going on there, right? And I felt it, and I was like, oh my God, because it was sporadic. It's not like how I process things. It's not how I think, right? It was something totally different. But because I put on a hat that he gave me, he was a sweetheart. Because I put on a hat he gave me, that transferred to me, right? So if that transfers through a hat, it can transfer through when you're, going to a home. That's why, you always bless your home, and you clear out everything. You purge it, right? You have a new home, truly have a new home. Goes for cars too. My spiritual mom taught me to bless everything, remove everything, sage that puppy, get some copal. Oh God, what is that? Because I've been looking for it. Oh yeah, there's a lot that you could do just to purge your energy. But yeah, if you don't heal, you know, especially from things that have taken our childhood innocence. I mean, so many of us had to grow up before before we were supposed to, you know. And so the jealousy comes from, and that's why they sabotage us. I've had both of these succubuses sabotage me in ways that have been so debilitating, where they're just stuck. It's like, well, how are you blessed? I see that you're getting this and you're getting that. They want to take that light out of you. They want to take that spark out of you. And, because if like I had a guy, a neighbor that, energetically he kept doing, to me it was harassment because of what I've experienced. And he kept coming, he kept trying to, be where I was at, or if I was going to take the dogs out, or if I opened my door, he'd open his door. I mean, just, stupid shit. and childish stuff. Guy's 60 years old or something. You know what I mean? Like, get a grip, dude. And, finally I had to put my foot down, because it's like I've already been through enough. I'm not going to go through anymore. You know, I'm not going to do it. If I didn't talk to him, he got all upset. I've already been there, done that, not doing it. Not doing it. And I don't, so so I made a decision and stuck with it because my freedom is more important than somebody else's delusions of grandeur. So anyway, you guys, yeah, just sharing my thing, because I didn't think that this chapter was going to deal with incubus or succubus, so that kind of shocked me, because I haven't had to deal with them for a minute, so the air seems to be clearing out. But just be careful and stay prayed up and stay in, keep your vibrations high. Watch some comedy, find something to laugh at, that raises your vibration to clear your chakra. um I think I have a playlist about doing chakras, or just you going through it with me or whatever. So anyway, hopefully you guys like this, and thank you, because I was having a hard time sleeping, and I thought, let me add, because usually I go like a month without reading um from this book, but we're almost done. It's 165, and we're at 111 right now, and so we're at chapter 13, I believe it is. So stay tuned. All right, love you guys. Remember, your blessings are in your ashes. Rise.